I'm going to share with you tonight some really startling findings about how widespread this phenomenon of children not cooperating, really not even being able to manage their own behavior, thoughts, or emotions. And I'll also share the 3 common threads from all of the discipline models that I looked at for my book and how you can implement them starting tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on who's awake when you arrive home. So to me, this was completely shocking because when I was growing up, if an adult on the playground had approached a group of children, they would have at least pretended to comply with whatever the instruction was until her back was turned. I mean, maybe the 1 or 2 hoodlums in the school wouldn't have or would have given some lip, but for the most part, 95% of my elementary school, if an adult said something, you did it. And so something was different about the experience that I was finding in, suburban public school that, was very much like the suburban public school I went to when I was in elementary school. And I started interviewing teachers who were using his discipline model in schools, and even a prison warden who was using it in juvenile justice systems. And these were some of the most oppositional and difficult children that either teachers or psychologists had to deal with. And they were having remarkable results, a tremendous drop in discipline problems. I wrote an article about this for Mother Jones magazine that was published in July 2015, and the piece went viral. You may have seen it. It had the title, "What if everything you knew about discipline was wrong?" on the internet. In the magazine, it was "The End of Punishment." And more than almost 6 million people have read it to date. There's something real going on in that kid that is important to be aware of and to find out. Yes?
Sorry, are you allowed to just...
Yeah, absolutely. Jump in.
So how much of this result is because, say, doctors are diagnosing these issues more? How much of this is that, kids are put into a system that is so different
Yes.
than our generation of education?
Yes. Absolutely. No, and in my book, I read a lot about the overarching societal changes that have happened that underlie a lot of these changes. So I would say, yeah, it's both. Yes, we are more aware. We are better at diagnosing. And there are fundamental changes that have happened. You can see the data from the National Institutes of Mental Health. This was a huge longitudinal study of more than 10,000 teenagers, showed a dramatic increase in anxiety, mood, and behavioral disorders. So you may say, wait a minute, I just came here to try to figure out how to get my kids to cooperate. Why are you talking about disorders? Well, a lot of the behaviors that end up being a diagnosis are also the kind of behaviors that we find in our homes and our schools that are troublesome. So for instance, the kid who signs up for swim class is super excited about it, and then the time comes to get in the car and go to practice, and they refuse. So the parent may just find this, of course, very challenging to deal with on the spot, but it may actually be that the child has some fear or difficulty with transitions. And those are the kinds of things that for some children might actually rise to the level of an anxiety diagnosis. Because obviously children take a very, very long time to grow up. And I found this with my kids at a preschool fair when I was thinking this is the perfect opportunity to teach them budgeting and planning ahead. They each got 10 tickets that they could use on the different rides or the different crafts, and they had to plan to spend them well. So I watched them as they went around the room and did the little sand art project or got a tattoo, and they weren't going to the bouncy house, which is, as we all know, the pièce de résistance of any preschool fair. It's the most fun thing. And they used up 9 out of 10 tickets, and I knew that the bouncy house was 3 tickets. So I'm thinking, oh, good. This is the opportunity. They're finally going to learn. They should have planned ahead. They should have counted, tried to figure out how many tickets they should use. They walked up. I watched them across the room walk up to the bouncy house lady and handed over something and went right in. So I was a little puzzled after they came out sweaty and happy. I asked them, what happened? How did you get into the bouncy house? And my daughter said, well, I asked the lady, would you be willing to take 1 ticket? And she said yes. So sometimes the lessons that our kids learn are not the lessons that we plan for them. For me, as I did this research, I realized that we truly have a crisis of self-regulation, that children cannot manage their behavior, thoughts, and emotions the way that they could a generation ago. This is a huge issue, not just for our children, but for our whole country, because we're growing our future teachers, doctors, leaders of institutions, politicians, and if we don't solve it now, we really are in for more trouble when our kids start having their own children, because one of the first ways that kids learn to self-regulate is from their parents. And if you cannot self-regulate, you cannot teach your child to self-regulate.